We are going to be looking at the new Blades by Shauna Magrath at Beauty Inc. Now, before we get started, Shauna and I have been friends for a long time. We've been work colleague friends for a long time. I met her, oh gosh, maybe probably, I mean, it's definitely over 10 years, maybe 11 or 12 years ago, through the industry on Facebook in one of the Facebook groups. And we became friends online and we talked on the phone a few times. And then we would see each other at industry conferences and things like that. And so we have formed a friendship. And I just wanted to take a second before we start looking at this product. I wanted to show you this little guy. And this has nothing to do with permanent makeup or products or anything. It's just, it is a gift that Shauna gave to me years ago. And so I just wanted to publicly say thank you for the gift. And yes, I still have it. So moving on, now that we got that out of the way. So Shauna sent these to me. These are brand new. It comes like this, and these are called BI-Blades. So that's the outside of the package. This is what the blade looks like. This is one of them. There are 3. So let me put them in order. So you'll see this one is the smallest, then that one, and then this big guy right here. So what makes these blades different, and I'll show you on the big one. So do you see that the needles here, typically with microblading needles, you're either going to have a slant, a curve, or a U-shape, right? Those are the ones that we're familiar with. So the slant, the curve, and the U-shape. But what Shauna did was she combined, you see there? Hopefully it's, I'm going to make sure that it's clear. So what she did was she combined a curved blade and a U blade and created this very special, see nowhere else type of blade. And so I just got these in the mail. She just sent these to me. I literally just got them. It comes with this cute little card. It was bent because it was wrapped around it, and it has this QR code, and that brings you to a video that shows you how to use them. So I have literally never used these blades before. This is a total blind unboxing. And so I will talk you through what I'm thinking and, you know, how I like the blades as I use them for the very first time. Now, I am mostly a machine girl. I do like to microblade. And so I'm kind of excited about this because the versatility of this blade means that I may not have to switch back and forth between this and my machine if I like the way it works. So let's jump right in and have a look. I'm going to be using a pigment from the Permablend Microblading Pro set. This is what it looks like right there. This is called All Night Long, and I chose this because it's very, very dark, and so I wanted to be able to see. So we're just going to pump a few out right there. Wipe that off. Now on my tray here, I have some paper towels. I have some Vaseline or petroleum jelly because that's going to help me use the practice pad here. So just a regular practice pad. And so because these needles aren't, this is not a all put together pen. So you're buying these separate and then you have to buy these separate. Now, if you don't have an autoclave available to you, then you do need to throw these away. So these are metal, right? So they are metal, so they can be thrown in the autoclave. They're so cheap now. Back in the day, they used to be really expensive, so you would take the time to clean them and put them in an ultrasonic and then sterilize them. But they are pretty affordable now, and so it's better to just buy it and then throw it out. And then you don't have to worry about whether or not you did a good job cleaning it, and you don't have to worry about owning an autoclave, which can be very costly. In order to make it fully disposable, just throw it away. So I am going to start with the big one just because it's big and it's easy. But before we get into that, I want you to see, can you see here how flexible these are? these blades are super flexible, which is really cool because a lot of the microblades that are on the market are not very flexible at all. And depending on how you like to work, you might want a flexy one, you might want a stiff one. These ones, the smaller ones, are very, very flexible. This one, you can see it's a little harder for me to bend. So this one's a little more rigid. So let's start with this one. And I'm just going to peel this part. Now, the way I like to do it is I peel it open this way and I hold it here by the needles so that I'm not touching anything, and then I'm just going to slide this in here. Open this up a little bit more. Put this back here so I could grab it. Like I said, this is, I've never used these before, so this is all, everything that's happening right now is brand new. You're watching it as I am learning it. Alrighty, so now here it is inside of the pen. You can obviously, I like to use them straight like this, but I'm also left-handed, which means I do everything different anyway. Even though this is a more rigid blade, you can see it still has a little bit of bend to it. It's got a little bounce, which is great. And if you want to angle it the other way so that you can use it on an angle, then, you know, this is fully adjustable. So you can do that, but I like to do it like this. So on my paper here, I am just going to sketch in a brow real quick. So this is my quick brow sketch. All right, and before I get into the brow, I want to play around with it a little bit. It's always important that you should dial into your tools and everything before you jump right into what you're doing. So I'm gonna put some gloves on here. So first thing that I'm going to do is obviously dip into my pigment a little bit. Now there is a video on this QR code that comes with the package. There is a video and it tells you exactly how to use it. I watched the video 3 times and I'm going to try to use it how it was intended to be used, and I'm also going to play around with it because I think it's important that you learn your tools, that you learn how to dial in and learn what works for you. So you might discover something with this that she has not used it, you know, in like a method of using it that she hasn't done yet, and then you've, you know, found your own technique there too. So in general, that's how things are invented, right? Mostly by accident most of the time. So we will play around with it and kind of see what it does. And so I'm going to start off with this lower part, the long part here. Okay, so the way that this was designed is that this lower part was designed to use as a manual shading tool. And so I want to check that out and see how it works, right? So let's come over to this side. I know it's kind of hard to see from the distance, but I will bring it up a little closer. So the way that this is intended, if you've ever used soft tap manual needles, what you'll notice with the soft tap is that they are very flexible, and the motion that you're doing is you're going in and then kind of up a little bit, kind of like in a scooping motion. This was not meant to do that. So with these, you're going to go straight in and straight out, in and out. Okay, so obviously, again, this is a total cold read here. I have not practiced this. I don't typically work like this, and you know, with all things, there is a learning curve, and you do get better with more practice. So we're not going to judge me on my first attempt here, but I do think it's important to try this out without practicing it, because it will tell you how easy it is to learn to use as well, right? So what I'm going to do here is just like she explained in the video, I'm just going to try to fill a little bit of shadow area. So I'm just going straight in and straight out. Now obviously there's a lot of control here because, you know, unlike a machine, the machine is running all the time. So if your hand moves or something like that, you're going to get pigment implantation if you're still near or on the skin. With this, it's totally manual, so you do have a ton of control, but I can't see anything. I can't see what I'm doing. Or rather, I can't see how much is going in there or if I'm doing a good job because the pigment is all there. So this is what that looks like before I wipe it. So I'm using a little bit of petroleum jelly because that helps get the pigment off of your practice skin. So if you struggle with your practice skin to where you wipe and it just ends up going everywhere and making a big mess, try using a little bit of petroleum jelly. You can even use oil, like a cooking oil or even grapeseed oil, anything like that. So you watched me do this, right? I'm using the big needle and it is flat. It's not like a magnum. It's not stacked. It's not meant as a big shader. This is just a flat grouping of needles. And if you can see closely there, I got a lot of color implanted. A lot of color implanted for just a few taps. So that's promising because according to Shauna's video, she says that she does powder brows like this with this method in about 30 minutes. That sounds a lot more like machine work than it does manual work. I was, a little skeptical about that. Like, okay, maybe, you can do it in 30 minutes because you've been practicing with it as you develop these, but like, how fast can the average person do it? And I have to tell you, I just got an incredible amount of pigment in very, very little effort. So I'm gonna continue to kind of play around with this because now I want to see if I'm spacing out a little bit more, right? Because I don't want as much. I don't want as much deposit. So I'm just kind of spacing out a little more and see what that does for me. Now, obviously, because of the nature of doing this manually like this, if I wanted a softer gradient, what I would do is probably dilute the pigment because it is depositing so much. If it was depositing less, I would say, just do it and then layer until you get to the color or the saturation that you want. But because it's depositing so very much, I mean, look at that. I spaced it out really far, but each one of those needle taps is really depositing quite a bit of color. So the secret there is going to be to dilute your pigment in gradients as you go so that you don't over deposit in anywhere, in any one place. So now that I've got this bit here, I'm gonna kind of cross hatch and see what that does for me, right? So I'm gonna kind of do the same thing. I'm going to space out, but this time instead of going up and down, I'm going across this way. So I'm going to cross hatch this. And I'm not going to put that, I'm not making it really tight. I'm just leaving quite a bit of space in between each of the taps, just so that I kind of get an idea. And if you're not noticing, as I'm doing this, I'm already moving a lot faster. I am not a soft tap girl. When I got into permanent makeup, soft tap was very popular, but because of my background as a tattoo artist, I felt very comfortable with the machines. And so I really didn't move towards soft tap. And I know that there's other manual tools on the market. It's just most people know it kind of by the brand name. And so, with soft tap, it wasn't really for me. It was kind of awkward for me just because I was so comfortable with the tattoo machine. But since then, I do purchase soft tap products every once in a while. I keep the needles on hand because sometimes you just need to get into that little corner, that little spot, and maybe the person is, particularly for me for eyeliner, maybe the person is like too squirmish, or they keep squeezing their eyes and moving, or something like that. So if I really need to get somewhere precise and I'm nervous about using the machine, I will pull out a soft tap needle or manual needle, and I will go in and do that manually. So there's no reason why I can't use this now, especially seeing how well it deposits pigment. So I brought all that up to say that the fact that I'm able to kind of start moving so fast with this in literally just a couple of taps, and I'm already feeling very comfortable with it, I would say, you know, as far as how hard is this to learn or how much of a learning curve, not very much at all. So there's that cross-hatchy pattern there. Now, obviously, this is not what you would do for like a powder brow, because again, I'm depositing with each one of these taps, I'm depositing full saturation color, and I wouldn't want to do that. I would dilute it if I was using this for a powder. But I mean, that's a lot of color deposit for just a few taps. That's pretty impressive. Now, what I'm going to do is, we were using this, get it here in the middle. So we were using this bottom part here to do this in and out tapping. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the top part, this part up here. And that is intended to be used just like a regular microblade. So let us have a look here. What I'm noticing right away is that when I go to put it down, it literally lays down just like a U shape. And I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, but it's laying down like a U shape, and the flat side over here that we were using before is not even in my way. I was kind of worried about that because I was thinking like, oh, if I'm making strokes like this, are they going to catch and kind of spread out and maybe snag the skin? But they're not even in the way. The way that this has been designed is that these needles here are on such a slope that they're not even in my way, which that is a good move. So let's make a couple of hair strokes here. There is a little bit of flexibility in these blades, which I really like. I think it makes it more gentle on the skin, but they are super sharp. These are 0.15 millimeters, so this is very, very sharp. So you definitely want to be careful if you are new to microblading. You know, sometimes we're working on skin that can be a little thick or a little hard, and the tendency is to press a little harder, and you do not want to be doing that with something this fine, because a 0.15 size needle is extremely sharp, and you're going to end up, you know, slicing them right open and causing scarring, and of course we don't want that. Let's clean that up really good. And those are my little strokes down there. Hopefully it's hard for me to see this far away. I can't tell if it's focusing. These strokes are crisp. They are crisp. They're not too deep, and I was barely even pushing with them. They're not too deep. They sliced right in beautifully. They're fully saturated. Each one of these lines is fully saturated, and the lines are nice and crisp, and the blade itself was easy to work with. I'm a little impressed. I was, you know, when I saw Shauna you know, starting to advertise these and say that she was working on this new product, and I was thinking, like, how many different ways can you make a microblade? Like, how, you know, there's the three that we're used to, and then, you know, people are using shader configurations for powder brows and stuff, and like, why fix it if it's not broken, right? Like, you're reinventing the wheel. But I will say I am pleasantly wrong, because this is so far pretty impressive with the ability to implant color. And I don't know if it's in the way that the needles are designed. I don't know if it's maybe they're textured a little bit. Like, I don't know what it is about how this was designed, but I can tell you that the color is going in super, super easy, which is always really good because we don't want to struggle, right? So now I'm going to continue to use the U shape part, and I'm going to work on this little brow that I've got here, and like, let's just see how working with that is. I will say, I like to, when I'm microblading, I like to twist my pen. So like as I'm coming around a, a line, I don't curve my hand, I kind of curve my fingers. I roll the microblade in my fingers. And if the microblade is too flimsy, if it's too bendy, then that can be a problem because now you're starting to twist the needles and they kind of twist out of place. This size so far of this needle is giving me enough rigidity. Yeah, that's a word, right? It's giving me enough stiffness that that's not happening. So as I'm twisting it, it is not deforming the needles in any way, and it's not bending the configuration. So again, big plus, big plus. Now, I remember when permanent makeup, or when microblading really started gaining some popularity in the United States. I had gotten into it because it was, it was new, it was exciting, and I know Shauna did too. So I can say with some certainty that she was one of the first people to, really start using microblading. And back then it was called embroidery, which I don't know how it translates from the Asian languages, but embroidery here means something completely different, obviously. So it was very confusing, and then it kind of ended up going into being called microblading. And that was a little misleading too because there's no blades here, right? But it sort of stuck and everybody liked it, and that's where we are now. For a little while, we were calling it micro stroking, but unfortunately, that didn't catch on. And so there's this misconception that these are done with blades, and there were a few people in the industry that did try at the time to see what would happen if we did use blades, right? Because back then, this is a 0.15 millimeter size needle. Back then, it was 0.25. They were enormous. They were like tree trunks. So the strokes that you were making were absolutely huge, and the damage to the skin was even more. You had to be even more careful because you didn't want to create, big hair stroke scars. And so basically, there were some people who said, well, a scalpel is a lot sharper and precise. Like perhaps we can do that. And, like all things, it was tried, it was researched, and it did not go well. So back to the needles we all went, knowing that Shauna, it's not like she just got into microblading, in the last couple of years. She was there when we first started, and she took the trainings. And if I might be mistaken, I'm trying to go back in my brain and remember, I think she flew to Serbia to take a class, because that was where it was being taught at the time, and there were no like American trainers really at that particular time, people coming here to train. And so knowing that she's been doing this for so long, you could just imagine, going every day and being like, oh, I like this needle, but it's not, it's not perfect. It's not perfect for me. Or like, oh, I love this new microblading tool, but it's not perfect for me. And so like a lot of us, she designed her own, because if you can't get what you're looking for from another manufacturer, then, you know, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, this concept is born of like over a decade of doing microblading. So it's not some sort of, you know, new thing that is not going to work. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, there used to be, for a little while, there was this tool that was out. It kind of looked like a spur, like that you would see on the back of a cowboy boot or something like that. And it was like on a little roller thing. And the intention was to be able to create powder brow by rolling the needles like that. And I don't see those around anymore. So obviously they did not take off the way that the inventor, you know, had hoped that they would. And so, you know, in an industry where we see things kind of come and go so often, knowing that she's designed these, you know, after years of trial and error, I think means something. Alrighty, so now I have microbladed the whole brow. I've done hair strokes in the whole brow. I'll clean that up. Like this a little bit. There's a lot of pigment on here, so I gotta try to wash some of this off. I mean, it certainly helps that the PermaBlend Microblading Pro Kit is so highly concentrated and highly pigmented. It's definitely helping this here, but between the consistency of the pigment and Shauna's blades, it is a lot of color in here. Alright, so that's probably about as clean as it's going to get. So what I want to show you here is there's not a lot of damage to the paper here, or the fake skin, the rubber. There's not much. I can't even barely feel it, and it's not all sliced open. Sometimes when you're on these practice pads and you're microblading, if you just go a little too deep, it will just slice right open. And so here, like, you can see that there is so much pigment in there, and yet not a lot of damage to the skin, which again, super important for what we do. So I'm gonna just make another little brow here. Oh, that is an ugly brow. Give her a little arch. All right, so draw another brow, and this time I'm gonna turn back over to the shading side, and we're gonna powder this, hopefully. I'm gonna try to be a little more conservative because, as we saw before, it really deposited quite a bit of color, and I don't want to overdo it. So, I mean, just like with any other microblading, you want to stay at a 90-degree angle here, because if you go in sideways, you're going to blow out to the side, and we don't want that, obviously. So I'm trying to, even though I'm working fast, I'm trying to maintain a decent angle here. Now, I will be honest, oh, that is a lot. Good Lord. I will be honest, the likelihood of me using a manual tool to do all of my powder brows and things like that is very slim, just because I do feel so much more comfortable, you know, with the machine. But I mean, I could totally see using this for eyeliner, particularly creating the you know, the upper edge of a thick liner or the wing of a liner, and absolutely definitely in the lower line. And as I mentioned before, I do sometimes use the manual tools for hard spots, and I absolutely hate doing lower liner. I struggle with it, it's difficult. And so one of the reasons I don't use I usually do it with the machine. I don't like to use the soft tap or the manual tools with it because sometimes it's just, I feel like it's too hard to get the color in, and then I'm struggling even more. I mean, I could definitely see using this for lower liner, and even just to set the template of the wing. So seeing how much pigment actually deposits with this, I would absolutely say always start in your darkest area, because if it's already going to be dark, then good. You haven't done anything wrong. And if you are going to be using it for ombre brows, powder brows, things like that, you're going to want to dilute. So you're going to want to have your cups set up in a way that, like variations of dilution, because otherwise you're going to have too much pigment in areas where you want it to be a little less saturated. Because this is pretty amazing. You know, again, this is, I'm totally doing this, you know, without any practice beforehand. And so I'm sort of just kind of rambling and talking because I'm trying to give you my thoughts as I'm, you know, going along with this. And again, I would say I was totally skeptical about using, you know, a microblading style configuration to do something like shading, because like the manual tools that are intended for things like color fill and stuff like that, they're so much bigger, you know, like you've got a whole ton of needles in the grouping. And so the idea of doing it with like a flat, you know, microblade is like, that's going to take forever, isn't it? And trying to get those guys to overlap. But it is really definitely in how she designed these needles, and how much color they're picking up and depositing. That is no longer a concern for me here, because it's really depositing a lot. Alright, so there's as a powder, and I only went in one direction, so if I were to cross hatch this, obviously I would be able to get a smoother blend. I mean, I could see how that would work. There is, in the tail where I was being more saturated, there's so much color in there. It really is quite a bit. I am impressed, Shauna Magrath. Definitely very interested in trying this with a lower eyeliner, and I've got a lower eyeliner tomorrow, and I think we might be utilizing this tool for that. That'll be fun. I will let you know how that works. I'll post something in the comments or something and let you know how that works. I do really love how the strokes came out. I think that it was very easy to get the color in there. They're all consistent. They look good. They're saturated. I don't have anything bad to say about this so far. I think, like I said, I don't really see myself going for this for powder and things like that, just because it's not what I'm naturally inclined towards. But yeah, it works, does what it says that it does. And that is all that you ever want in a tool that you buy, is just please do what you promised that you would do, and this does. I am definitely going to practice some more with this and see if I can, you know, get my powder brow over here a little bit better. And then I'm looking forward to using it on an actual person. I've got a few of them here. She sent me a couple of these to try out. I have a few more, so I'm gonna use them on some people, and I will get back to you. I'll put something down in the comments, let you know how that went on actual people's skin. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, comment below. If you have a product and you would like me to unbox or review it, please send me a message, info@teachmepmu.com, and I am more than happy to take a look at it and break it down and test it out and bring it to the people. So that'll be all for now, and I will see you down in the comments. Thanks again to Shauna Magrath for not just inventing these cool new BI-blades. Oh, that's upside down. For inventing these cool things, but also for sending me some to try out and to show to all of you. You can find Shauna on Instagram and social media at BEAUTYINK. You can buy these at BEAUTYINK.ca. She is in Canada, so it is a .ca website. And if you have questions for her, you can email her at info.beautyink.ca. I will link everything down in the box below. And if you have any questions for me, you can certainly email me as well. I am at PMU by Angela on all socials, or at TeachMePMU, and that'll do it.